Hi, I'm Tori, and I just saw the movie Mary Poppins Returns. I've been looking forward to this movie for a while. I loved the original movie when I was a child, and I also loved the books. I wasn't really expecting this movie to have anything in common with the book. The movie is Mary Poppins Returns, and the book is Mary Poppins Comes Back. So I was actually really pleased. It had quite a few little homages to the book, and I wouldn't really call it an adaptation of the book. It's a little too separate for that. But it did have quite a few things in common with the book, so I thought I would talk about them. First of all, this movie is set in the 1930s, and Jane and Michael have grown up, and now Michael has children who need a nanny. And I believe the books are set in the 1930s. I'm not entirely certain. The original came out in 1934, and Mary Poppins Comes Back came out in 1935. And I don't remember picking up on anything that made it sound like the books were set in a different time than the time they were published. And then if you look at the cover art for the books, this doesn't really look like the setting of the movies. The movies are kind of turn of the century, I think. And this definitely looks more like 1930s attire. The hats look like it, the skirts are shorter. So I think the books are set in the 30s, or at least that's the vibe I always got. So I like it that the movie is set kind of the same time that the books were published. And Mary Poppins arrives in a very similar way. The children are in the park flying a kite, and they try to pull the kite back in, and there's Mary Poppins on the end. The book also has the same kind of element of the father of the children seeing the nanny from his childhood. In the books, it's only maybe a year after Mary Poppins originally watched the children, and she's coming back, just to take care of them again. But we do see Mr. Banks' nanny from his childhood, Miss Andrew. And he has some of the same reactions that Michael has in this book when he sees the nanny from his childhood. And I thought that that was kind of a fun little parallel. The book also has the Royal Dalton Bowl in it, and it breaks for a different reason. Jane is having a bad day, and she throws a bit of a tantrum and accidentally breaks the bowl, and then just she goes wandering into it and needs Mary Poppins to come rescue her. And the movie also has the children kind of accidentally breaking the bowl, and then the whole group goes on into the bowl and has an adventure. And they kind of combine that with the circus in the book too. In the book, they have a circus up in the sky with all the constellations. And so in the movie, the circus is in the bowl, but it's the same kind of thing where Mary Poppins is the guest of honor, and you see all these wonderful magical performances at this beautiful circus. I also like it that Topsy-Turvy is a character in both the book and the movie. It's a little different between them. In the movie, they combined two characters into one. In the book, there is a man named Mr. Turvy, who is Mary Poppins' cousin who repairs things, and they take the Royal Dalton Bowl to him to repair. And while they're having their upside-down adventure, his housekeeper person comes in, and her first name is Topsy, and they decide that they must simply get married so that she can be Topsy-Turvy. In the movie, they combine that into just one, and Mary Poppins has a cousin named Topsy-Turvy who repairs things, but it's still the same general idea where everyone's flipping upside down, and they get their bowl repaired. The ending of the movie with the balloons is also very similar to the book. It kind of combines two scenes from the book. In the book, Mary Poppins gets some extra money from buying groceries, and she takes the children out to buy balloons. And then the whole neighborhood kind of participates, and you see all the local people from the neighborhoods getting their balloons and floating around through the sky. And it's this fun celebratory day, and that's very similar to the books, where everyone's bobbing along, enjoying their balloon ride, and then the adults never speak of it again. In the movie, that's explicitly stated. In the book, it's just kind of assumed that maybe the adults won't remember, or something will happen, and everyone just floats around and has a lovely day up in the sky. And in the movie, that is when Mary Poppins leaves. In the books, they have another day where there's a carousel that appears in the middle of the town, and Mary Poppins takes the children out for a carousel ride, and then she gets on the carousel, and the whole carousel gets up and sails away into the sky, and that's how she leaves. And so I think it's a really good choice to kind of combine that in the movie, because they both of those chapters have the same feel of, we're having a very fun day out in the park doing something glorious with the whole town around. And so that was a very fun thing to see. It had a very same feel in both the book and the movie. I also thought that Emily Blunt's performance was very similar to Mary Poppins from the books. In reviews of the movie, I've seen people say that they thought Emily Blunt seemed a little bit more harsh than Julie Andrews performing the role, and that is actually much more accurate to the book character. In the book, Mary Poppins is very no-nonsense and very kind of strict until she kind of lets magic happen. And it's very fun to see that. And I thought Emily Blunt did a very good job of kind of balancing Julie Andrews' performance with the Mary Poppins in the book and finding a good middle ground. She also brought in a little bit of the vanity. In the books, Mary Poppins is always stopping to look in mirrors and at her reflection in window panes, and she's always admiring her new locket that she has, or her particularly fine gloves and things like that. So I thought that was a very nice part of the character that Emily Blunt brought. I had a great time with this movie, and I thought it was a very good adaptation, and it was probably the best adaptation they could have done. And it did a very nice job of being a sequel to the movie and of paying homage to the books. I think it did a really good job of keeping Mary Poppins alive in all of her incarnations.